Lily pressed her nose against the cool glass of the record store window, the afternoon sun glinting off the album covers inside. Her reflection, a slim girl with a mass of unruly brown curls and a perpetually thoughtful expression, stared back. Around her, Memphis pulsed with its familiar rhythm, the distant wail of a blues guitar, the rumble of passing cars, the heat shimmering off the asphalt. But for Lily, it was more than just a city. It was Graceland, the spiritual home of the king. Elvis Presley. She wasn't a superfan, not in the screaming at concerts way. Lily was a musician, a jocker who believed in the soul of music. And Elvis's voice, raw and honest, had always spoken to her. But she felt that the real Elvis, the person behind the sequin jumpsuits and the tabloid headlines, was often lost. He was a caricature, a punchline sometimes, and that bothered her. She knew there had to be more. Her own life felt a bit like a faded record sleeve. She worked at a small independent coffee shop, serving lattes and pretending not to hear the whispers about her unrealistic dreams. Her apartment was cramped, her guitar case often half open on the floor. Yearning for the songs that wouldn't quite come, Lily wanted to make a difference, to find something real and meaningful. But the path wasn't clear. Today she had an hour before her shift. She stepped inside the record store. The cool air a welcome relief. It was an old-school place, dusty shelves, crammed with byline, the scent of aged paper and forgotten melodies hanging in the air. A sign above the counter read, "Eddie's Withmorn Vault, spinning since '72. Eddie, a man who looked as though he'd been born wearing a concert t-shirt, nodded at her from behind a towering stack of lels. Lily wandered through the blues section, then rock, then jazz. Finally, she found herself in the dedicated Elvis corner, a shrine of sorts. There were the usual greatest hits, live albums, movie soundtracks, but then something caught her eye. Tucked away behind a stack of Blue Hawaii soundtracks was a worn, plain brown cardboard box, the kind old reel-to-reel tapes came in. It wasn't sealed, and there was no label. Curious, Lily pulled it out. It felt lighter than a tape, and when she peered inside, she saw not a reel, but a single folded sheet of aged paper. It was thick, almost like parchment, and on it, in elegant, looping script, were only a few words. The heart of the king beats on, not in gold, but in grace. Find the Blue Suede Echo. Lily frowned. Blue Suede Echo sounded like some kind of fan club password, or maybe just a quirky message from a previous owner. But there was something about the handwriting, the old-fashioned paper, that felt important. It didn't look like a joke. She looked around. No one else was nearby. Eddie was busy helping a customer find a rare jazz record. Lily carefully folded the paper and slipped it into her pocket. She felt a strange tingle, a sense of discovery that went beyond just finding a cool old note. She walked out of the store, the Memphis sun now feeling hotter, the city's sound sharper. Blue Suede Echo, what did it mean? Was it a place, a person, a concept? Her musician's mind immediately went to Graceland. Of course, it was always Graceland. Lily decided to use her lunch break to visit the mansion, something she hadn't done in years despite living so close. It was a tourist trap, yes, but also a pilgrimage site. Maybe the answer lay there. Crowds at Graceland were thick as usual, a mix of dedicated fans, curious tourists, and families. Lily bought her ticket and joined the line, her heart thrumming with an unusual excitement. As she walked through the famous gates past the modest brick house, she felt a profound quiet settle over her. This wasn't just a house. It was a home filled with echoes of a life lived intensely. She moved through the rooms, the familiar decor, the costumes, the records. But the phrase, Blue Suede Echo, kept playing in her mind. She looked for anything unusual, anything that might point to a hidden message. Nothing. Finally, she reached the meditation garden, the peaceful final resting place. The air here was reverent, hushed. Lily stood before the memorial, watching others pay their respects. And then her eyes caught something subtle. Near the base of one of the statues, partially obscured by a wilting bouquet of flowers, was a small, almost imperceptible etching on the stone. It was a symbol she didn't recognize, but it looked like a stylized G intertwined with a musical note. And below it faintly were the words, the rhythm and the rhyme. Another clue. It wasn't Blue Suede Echo, but it felt connected. The G for Graceland, the musical note for Elvis, the rhythm and the rhyme. It sounded like a code, a phrase. She felt a pull, a growing certainty that she was on the edge of something much bigger than a simple fan's note. The true legacy of Elvis Presley, she realized, might be far more complex and far more secret than anyone knew. And she, Lily, somehow was being invited in. She knew what she had to do. She had to find out what the rhythm and the rhyme meant, and where it would lead her. The mundane world of coffee shops and struggling songwriting suddenly seemed very far away. A new rhythm had entered her life, and it was intriguing, captivating, and utterly mysterious. The rhythm and the rhyme. Lily spent the next few days with the phrase swirling in her mind, a persistent melody she couldn't quite place. She tried looking it up online, searching for any connection to Elvis, to Memphis, to anything, nothing. It was as if the words were meant only for her, a private whisper in a world of shouts. She returned to Eddie's Wildman vault, hoping he might know something about the mysterious box. "Eddie," she began, approaching the counter where he was meticulously cleaning a vintage turntable. "That old cardboard box, the one where the reel-to-reel tapes used to be stored, do you know where it came from?" Eddie, a man of few words, grunted, "Nah, just found it in a batch of old records from an estate sale. Figured it was empty." "Why, you find something interesting?" He fixed her with a gaze that was sharper than his usual sleepy demeanor. Lily hesitated. She could lie, say she found an old receipt. But something in Eddie's eyes, a knowing glint, made her tell a partial truth. "Just a really old note. It had some strange writing on it." Eddie chuckled. A dry, raspy sound. "Old notes, huh? Sometimes they tell stories, sometimes they're just old notes." He paused, then leaned closer. "But if it had that kind of writing, the elegant kind, then maybe it's a story worth following." He straightened up, his tone shifting back to casual. "You know, there's a place, an old jazz club down on Beale, the Blue Suede Echo, closed up years ago. But sometimes people still meet there, folks." Lily's heart leaped. "The Blue Suede Echo. That was the phrase from the first note. Where is it?" "Exactly." Eddie gave her a slow, deliberate wink. "Not exactly a public place anymore, but if you're meant to find it, you will. They usually meet Tuesday nights. Ask for the Maestro." He went back to his turntable, leaving Lily with a swirling mix of excitement and apprehension. Tuesday night felt like an eternity away. When it finally arrived, Lily dressed carefully. Not too formal, not too casual. She chose a dark blue jacket and her most comfortable boots, feeling a strange mix of an adventurer and a spy. The address Eddie had vaguely indicated led her to a quiet, dimly lit stretch of Beale Street. Away from the usual neon glow and tourist bustle, she found an unmarked door nestled between a defunct pawn shop and a boarded-up diner. It looked completely abandoned. Lily pushed lightly on the door. It creaked open, revealing not a dark hallway but a softly lit staircase leading down. A faint hum of music, something soulful and bluesy, drifted up from below. Taking a deep breath, Lily descended. At the bottom, she found herself in a small, cozy space. Clearly once a club. Red velvet booths lined the walls. A small stage sat empty in one corner, and a bar glowed faintly. A handful of people were scattered around sipping drinks, their conversations hushed. They didn't look like typical Beale Street tourists. They looked intentional. Observant? "Indeed, take a seat, he'll be with you shortly." She gestured to an empty booth. Lily sat, her gaze sweeping over the room. There was a young man hunched over a laptop, tapping furiously. An older gentleman was polishing a worn guitar case, his fingers moving with an almost reverent touch. Everyone seemed to have a quiet intensity about them. After about 10 minutes, a figure emerged from a back room. He was a tall man, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, with a shock of white hair and a kind, intelligent face. He moved with a quiet authority, and when he spoke, his voice was deep and resonant. "Welcome, Lily," he said, extending a hand. "I am Elias Thorne. Some call me the Maestro." Lily shook his hand. His grip was firm, his eyes clear. "Thank you for seeing me. I found a note, and then another. At Graceland." She pulled out the 2 pieces of paper. Elias took them, his fingers gentle as he smoothed them out. He studied the script, a faint smile touching his lips. "Ah, yes, the King's calling cards. You have taken the first step on a very important path, Lily. This is not a fan club. This is not about celebrity worship. This is about truth." He paused, his gaze searching hers. His quiet acts of kindness, his personal philosophies, his secret struggles and triumphs. These are the true legacy. "And you protect it?" Lily asked, barely daring to breathe. "We are its protectors," the Maestro confirmed. "The guardians of Graceland's heart, we ensure that the essence of who he truly was does not fade into the shadows of commercialism and sensationalism. We safeguard a story." "Because you saw it, Lily, you felt the pull. You cared enough to look beyond the surface to seek the deeper cuts, as Eddie would say. We look for those who feel that resonance, who understand that genuine artistry and genuine kindness are legacies worth fighting for." He leaned forward slightly. "Are you prepared to learn the truth, Lily? Are you prepared to dedicate yourself to protecting it, whatever the cost?" The question hung in the air, weighty and profound. Lily looked around the dimly lit room, at the quiet, focused people who felt like family she hadn't known she had. A sense of purpose, of belonging washed over her, replacing the aimless feeling she'd carried for so long. "Yes," she said, her voice firm, clear. "I am." The Maestro nodded, his eyes shining with approval. "Then welcome, Lily. Welcome to the Guardians. Your journey has just begun." Lily's first official day as a guardian of Graceland's heart felt like stepping into a movie. The Blue Suede Echo Club wasn't just a meeting spot. It was the entry point to their headquarters. The back room, which had seemed like a simple storage area, concealed a hidden elevator. The Maestro led her inside, and with a soft whir they descended deeper beneath Memphis. The elevator opened into a vast, surprisingly modern space. It wasn't flashy, but it was incredibly functional and high-tech. Nestled deep underground, miles from the noise of the city, there were multiple workstations with large monitors displaying complex data, a dedicated archives section lined with shelves of meticulous catalog boxes, and even a small, soundproof recording studio. "Impressive," the Maestro replied with a smile. "To protect a legacy this vast, you need more than just good intentions." He began introducing her to the other Guardians. "This is Marcus," he said, gesturing to the young man Lily had seen earlier, who was now hunched over a bank of servers. "Our tech wizard. If it's on a screen or needs to be found digitally, Marcus is our man." Marcus, a tall, lanky guy with glasses perched on his nose, offered a shy wave without looking away from his coat. Next, they approached the older gentleman from the club, who was carefully labeling a collection of antique photographs. "And this is Arthur," the Maestro continued. "Our historian and archivist. He knows more about Elvis's true life story than anyone else alive. He's also a master of preservation." Arthur, his face kind and weathered, offered Lily a warm handshake. "Welcome, Lily. Always good to have a fresh perspective. Over here, we have Lena." The Maestro pointed to a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes, who was practicing what looked like lockpicking on an elaborate safe. "She's our security specialist and our primary contact for operations in the field. Resourceful and utterly fearless." Lena grinned, a quick, confident flash of white teeth. "Nice to meet you, Lily. Hope you're ready for anything." These people were skilled, dedicated, and clearly very serious about their mission. And what exactly is that mission? Lily asked, trying to grasp the full scope. The Maestro led her to a large central display where holographic images flickered. Public Elvis, he explained, pointing to images of famous concerts, movie posters, and magazine covers. The showman, the legend, the larger-than-life figure. That's the crown, but the crown often obscures the true king. He then gestured, and the holograms shifted, revealing different images. Elvis donating money anonymously to a struggling family, Elvis quietly visiting a hospital, Elvis writing poetry, Elvis sharing heartfelt letters with friends. He was a seeker, a questioner, an artist who constantly pushed boundaries. Even when his management didn't understand, his heart was as vast as his talent. "We protect the physical manifestations of this true legacy," the Maestro explained. His private journals, letters, unreleased recordings, personal artifacts that reveal his deeper thoughts and actions. But more than that, we protect the narrative. We ensure that when misinformation or exploitation reinsure. This was what she had always sensed, that there was more to Elvis than the glitz. This society wasn't just hoarding secrets, they were safeguarding a precious human story. It wasn't about fawning over a celebrity, it was about honoring a genuinely good person. "How did it start?" she asked. A small group of trusted individuals close to Elvis, his friends, his confidants, some even family members, realized after his passing that his image was being shaped by others, often for profit or sensation. The Maestro. "So what's my role?" she asked, eagerness bubbling up. The Maestro smiled. "But I believe your artistic insight, your understanding of expression will be invaluable in interpreting some of the more cryptic elements of the legacy." He then showed her to a small, private workstation. On the desk was a leather-bound journal, old and worn. This belonged to Elvis himself, one of his lesser-known private journals filled with his thoughts, poems, and philosophical musings. It's untranscribed, and some of the handwriting is challenging. Arthur can guide you. But I believe. The first page was filled with flowing script, a poem about humility and the burden of fame. She traced the words with her finger, feeling a connection to the man behind them, a connection that went far beyond his public image. She was no longer just a struggling musician. She was a guardian, a keeper of a profound and beautiful truth. And as she began to read, she knew this was exactly where she was meant to be. Lily quickly settled into her new life as a guardian. Her days were a fascinating blend of history, mystery, and profound discovery. She spent hours in the archives with Arthur, the soft hum of the environmental controls and the rustle of aged paper creating a peaceful, almost sacred atmosphere. Arthur, with his vast knowledge and calm demeanor, was the perfect mentor. The public saw the glamour, Arthur explained one afternoon, carefully cataloging a box of handwritten song lyrics. They saw the king of rock and roll, but Elvis also explored gospel, classical, even opera. He was a seeker, Lily always trying to understand the deeper meanings of life. Lily's primary task was transcribing one of Elvis's personal journals. It wasn't just a diary, it was a soul laid bare. She discovered poems about the quiet beauty of nature, philosophical musings on the nature of fame and humility, prayers and reflections on his deep spiritual journey. This wasn't the Elvis of the movies, charming and a little wild. This was a man wrestling with profound questions, yearning for peace, and constantly striving to be a better person. One entry particularly moved her. It described a secret visit Elvis made to a children's hospital, dressed in plain clothes, just to sing lullabies to sick kids. He didn't want publicity. He just wanted to bring comfort. Another entry detailed his struggle with the superficiality of Hollywood and his longing for genuine connection. Far from the cameras. He was so much more than just a performer, Lily murmured one day, reading a passage where Elvis expressed sorrow over a fan's struggle, wishing he could do more. He truly cared. Arthur nodded, his eyes soft. Indeed, his generosity wasn't just about money. It was about his time, his compassion, his presence. That's the heart of the legacy we protect. It wasn't just about the music, it was about the man who made it, and the man he tried to be. Lily also learned about the secret philanthropic network Elvis had quietly supported throughout his life, helping countless individuals and families without any public fanfare. The Guardians maintained this network subtly, continuing his work, ensuring his quiet kindness echoed through the generations. She spent time with Marcus, learning basic digital security and data retrieval. He taught her how to navigate encrypted databases and track digital footprints, skills that felt utterly futuristic to her artistic mind. Lena showed her self-defense techniques and the importance of situational awareness, pushing Lily out of her comfort zone. Even the Maestro would sometimes join them, sharing anecdotes, offering insights, and reminding them of the profound importance of their shared mission. Lily found her own artistic sensibilities were indeed valuable. When transcribing the journal, she noticed patterns in his prose, shifts in his moods, and hidden meanings in his poetry that Arthur, though a brilliant historian, might have overlooked. Her musician's ear helped her reconstruct faint melodies Elvis had hummed into an old tape recorder, fragments of songs that had never been released, revealing a raw, experimental side to his musical genius. One evening, while transcribing a particularly challenging passage, Lily noticed a series of seemingly random underlined words. In different entries, spread across months, curious, she wrote them down. Silver. Compass, heart. North, Graceland. She showed it to Arthur. He peered at it through his reading glasses. Interesting. He often doodled or made notes. What do you make of it? Lily frowned. They feel like instructions, like a code. She remembered the first note. The heart of the king beats on, not in gold, but in grace. Find the Blue Suede Echo. And the second, the rhythm and the rhyme. Silver, compass, heart, north, Graceland, she repeated, turning the words over in her mind. It sounds like a treasure hunt, but for something conceptual, not physical. Suddenly, Marcus's voice crackled over the intercom from his workstation. Maestro, Arthur, Lena, Lily, we have a problem, a big one. Everyone immediately converged on Marcus's station. His multiple screens displayed news, feeds, social media trending topics, and a live broadcast from a major entertainment news channel. What is it, Marcus? The Maestro asked, his voice calm but sharp. It's Desmond Thorne, Marcus said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. He's making a major announcement. Tomorrow, he's the CEO of Legacy Media. Holding's a massive company that buys up intellectual property and then exploits it. He's notorious for sensationalism, for twisting stories for profit. On the screen, a slick smirking man with an overly confident smile. Appeared the network's logo beneath him. This will be the definitive narrative exposing the hidden truths behind the legend, and it will shock the world. A chill ran down Lily's spine. Exposing hidden truths, she whispered. He sounds like he's going to trash Elvis's reputation, twist his story. Precisely, the Maestro said, his jaw tight. Lena clenched her fist. He's a vulture, preying on a dead man's memory. Indeed, Arthur sighed, his brow furrowed. We have to find out what he claims to have, and, more importantly, how he got it. This could be a significant threat, perhaps the most significant in decades. Lily looked from the menacing image of Desmond Thorne on the screen to the quiet, dignified journal open on her desk. The gentle soul within those pages was now under attack. Her training, her newfound purpose. It was all about to be put to the ultimate test. The Guardians of Graceland's heart were about to face their biggest challenge. Yet, the Guardians' headquarters buzzed with a new, urgent energy. Desmond Thorne's announcement had ignited a silent alarm, a signal that the true legacy was in immediate danger. Marcus, Lena, and Arthur were already working tirelessly, their faces illuminated by the glow of computer screens and archive lights. The maestro moved between them, his presence a calm anchor in the rising storm. "Marcus, any intel on what Thorne claims to have?" the maestro asked, standing over the tech expert's shoulder. "He's being vague, Maestro," Marcus replied, typing furiously. "Lots of buzzwords. Unprecedented access. Previously unseen documentation. Exclusive audio. He's built up enough hype that the networks are scrambling to cover his special reveal." "He thrives on public spectacle," Lena muttered, poring over a satellite map of Thorne's media headquarters in New York. "His entire business model is based on shock value. He doesn't care about accuracy, only controversy." Arthur, meanwhile, was meticulously checking their own secure database, cross-referencing every known Elvis Bacon document. "Our major holdings are all accounted for, Maestro," he reported, "which means whatever Thorne has is either something we don't know about or it's a fabrication he intends to pass off as real. Or, worst case, he's acquired something legitimate that was believed lost or destroyed." Lily listened. The gentle, introspective Elvis she'd come to know through his journals felt incredibly vulnerable to this kind of attack. It was like watching a beloved, peaceful garden being threatened by a venomous serpent. "We need to infiltrate his network," the maestro declared. "Find out precisely what he intends to reveal, Marcus. Can you get into his company's servers? At least enough to get a hint." Marcus shook his head grimly. "He's got state-of-the-art encryption, Maestro. We're talking military-grade firewalls. It's not a one-man job, and it'll take time we don't have before tomorrow's announcement." "Then we go analog," Lena interjected, tapping her finger on the map of Thorne's building. "His New York office is where he'll store anything critical. He's too arrogant to think anyone would dare challenge him." "Infiltration is a last resort," the maestro said, his gaze fixed on Lena. "It's too risky. We need to discredit him publicly if he lies, or intercept if he holds something genuinely damaging. But we can't risk exposing the Guardians." Suddenly, Lily remembered the words she'd found in Elvis's journal. Silver, compass, heart, north, Graceland. She'd felt they were a code, a message. "Maestro Arthur," she said, holding out the paper with the words she transcribed. "Could this be connected? What if it's a warning, or a way to find something else?" Arthur's eyes narrowed as he took the paper. "Silver, compass, heart, north, Graceland," he muttered the words, turning them over. "Graceland is clear, of course. North could mean north of Graceland, or simply a direction. Heart implies emotion, or the core of something. Compass for guidance. Silver's is the most cryptic. What if phone, pazer, ma, pa, or a specific object?" Arthur countered. "Something made of silver, perhaps related to a compass. Or a heart. Elvis did have a few unique pieces of jewelry." The maestro leaned over the table, his fingers tracing the words. "These could be clues to something Elvis wanted to remain hidden even from us, something he knew might be at risk if his true nature was ever threatened." He looked up. "Lily, your intuition on this has been sharp so far. What does your artistic sense tell you about these words?" Lily closed her eyes, trying to feel the rhythm of the words, the unspoken meaning. "It feels protective. Like he left a breadcrumb trail for someone to follow, to find something important if things ever went wrong. And the words, heart and grace. From the first note they connect, it feels like this is about his quiet ode." A thought struck her. What if silver refers to something precious, but not monetary-like? A silver lining, or an old wise person with silver hair? At that moment, Marcus's voice cut through their conversation again, sharper. This time, "Maestro, I just intercepted a communication. Desmond Thorning's exclusive audio is a recording of a private thief. It's been heavily edited, taken completely out of context. He's twisting Elvis's moments of vulnerability and doubt into a narrative of instability. and manipulative behavior. It's despicable. This was a direct attack on Elvis's character. An attempt to paint him as mentally unstable and deceitful, using his private struggles against him. This wasn't just about money. It was about destroying his legacy of compassion and integrity. "And how did he get that recording?" Lena asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "The communication also mentioned a source who sold it to him," Marcus replied, his face grim. "An older individual described as Silver Fox, who clocks. The price was astronomical." Lily's eyes widened. Silver. A silver fox. Her mind raced. The word silver in Elvis's journal entry, could it be a double meaning? A warning about a person, someone with silver hair who would betray him. The Maestro's expression hardened. So he has a legitimate, albeit twisted piece of the past. And he has a source, someone who broke a trust. This is worse than I thought. We need to find this silver fox and discredit them before Thorne's announcement. They are the key to unlocking how this private information got out. And if silver is a person, compass could be a way to find them. Lily added, her mind buzzing. Heart and north could be clues to their location or their motivation. And Graceland, that's where it all connects back to. The Maestro looked at Lily, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. "We need to find who betrayed the king's true heart and prevent this serpent from poisoning his garden." The clock was ticking. The fight to protect Elvis's true legacy had just begun, and it was going to be a battle for the soul of the king. The night stretched long, filled with a frantic, focused energy within the Guardian's headquarters. The Maestro, Arthur, and Lily pored over archive photos, old address books, and handwritten letters, searching for anyone who fit the description of a silver fox. Someone with graying hair, a former confidant of Elvis, and, crucially, someone who might have had access to highly personal, private recordings. Elvis had a vast circle of friends and acquaintances, Arthur explained, sifting through a stack of black and white photos. Many were genuinely loyal. A few, however, were opportunistic. Lily's eyes darted across the faces in the photos. She recognized some of the famous Memphis Mafia, but others were strangers. She kept the journal entry in her mind. Silver, Compass Heart, North Graceland. What if Compass points to someone who knew a lot about direction, about travel? Lily mused, looking at a photo of Elvis boarding a private plane. Someone who was with him on tours. Good thought, Arthur acknowledged. Many of his inner circle traveled with him constantly. But who would have recorded his private therapy sessions and why? Meanwhile, Marcus was trying to hack into any publicly available records or social media profiles of anyone remotely connected to Elvis from that era, cross-referencing names. With anyone who had recently come into a sudden, large sum of money. Lena was coordinating with their network of anonymous sources, trying to get whispers from the entertainment world about Thorne's mysterious informant. Hours passed. Coffee was strong, the silence broken only by the click of keyboards and the rustle of paper. Then Lena's voice cut through the quiet. "I've got something," she announced, her eyes fixed on her screen. A whisper from a source in Langs that weren't for. Shh. Tuser, named Miles Corbin. Miles Corbin. I remember him. He was a difficult man. Very eccentric. Elvis dismissed him after a few months. Something about Corbin trying to record private conversations, claiming it was for artistic posterity. We had thought all those recordings had been destroyed. Lily felt a jolt. Corbin, that fits Silver. He'd be older now, likely with gray hair and a sound engineer. He'd have had the equipment to make those recordings. And the motive, the Maestro asked, his gaze piercing. Corbin's career faded dramatically after Elvis let him go, Lena explained. He tried to revive it for years, always blaming Elvis for ruining his big break. He's been living in obscurity, apparently in financial straits, up until recently. This would-be hoarding is likely genuine, Arthur said grimly, which means Thorne's threat is very real. We need to find Corbin immediately. Marcus pulled up Corbin's last known address. It was in a secluded, run-down part of Nashville. Looks like he's been lying low, Marcus noted. Address hasn't changed in years. Very little digital footprint. Nashville, Lily mused. The home of country music, but also a city Elvis recorded in. And Compass Heart, North Graceland. Nashville is north of Memphis. Could Hart refer to the heart? It's a strong possibility, the Maestro conceded. Lily felt a surge of nerves and excitement, her first field mission. What's the objective? She asked. Recover any remaining copies of the private recordings Corbin might possess, the Maestro instructed. And, if possible, get him to publicly discredit Thorne's announcement. He needs to admit the recordings were taken out of context, that he misused them. This is about protecting Elvis's character, his heart from being twisted. Lena packed a small bag with tools and discreet communication devices. Lily grabbed her own essentials, including a small notebook and pen. As they made their way to the surface, Lily looked back at the buzzing headquarters, knowing the fate of the king's true legacy rested on their shoulders. The drive to Nashville was tense. Lena drove with calm efficiency while Lily replayed the events of the last few days in her mind. She thought about Elvis's journal, the vulnerability in his words. This mission wasn't just about stopping a bad guy. It was about honoring a man she was rapidly coming to admire deeply. They arrived in Nashville as dawn broke, casting a soft golden light over the city. Miles Corbin's house was dilapidated, overgrown with weeds. A clear sign of neglect. It looked as broken as his spirit apparently was. Lena carefully approached the front door, scanning for surveillance, while Lily waited a discreet distance away. Lena knocked, then tried the handle. It was unlocked. Lily, stay back for now, Lena whispered into her earpiece. I'm going in. Looks like he's not expecting company. Lena slipped inside, her movements fluid and silent. Lily waited, her heart pounding. The air was still, save for the chirping of crickets winding down their night song. A few minutes later, Lena's voice came through. I found him. He's here. He looks unwell. And there's a lot of recording equipment. Old stuff, but active. He's clearly still obsessed with sound. Then Lena's voice changed, a note of urgency entering it. Wait, he's talking to someone on the phone. He's confirming the deal with Thorne. He's also saying that he has more private recordings. He's just secured another buyer for a Part 2 revelation. This is worse than we thought. Lily felt a wave of despair. Corbin wasn't just selling one recording. He was building a whole business out of exploiting Elvis's privacy. They had to stop him, and fast. The trial of Blue Notes was leading them to a very dark place, and the true heart of the king was still very much at risk. Lena's revelation echoed in Lily's ear. Miles Corbin had a Part 2 revelation. The serpent was not only in the garden, but multiplying. Lily rushed inside, her earlier caution replaced by a desperate urgency. The house reeked of stale cigarette smoke and desperation. Wires snaked across the floor, connecting antique recording equipment, much of it covered in dust. Miles Corbin, a frail man with a shock of unkempt silver hair, was hunched over a workbench, mumbling into an old rotary phone. He looked gaunt, his eyes sunken, a bitter anger etched into his features. Yes, Mr. Thorne, Corbin rasped into the phone. The first batch is only the beginning. The next set, well, they're even more intimate. Show a side of Presley even his closest cronies never saw. Omega fortune, and I finally will get my due. Lena moved swiftly, silently disconnecting the phone line from the wall. Corbin startled, dropping the receiver. His roomy eyes darted between Lena and Lily, wide, with a mix of fear and paranoia. Who are you? How did you get in here? He demanded, his voice thin. We're here to talk about Elvis Presley, Mr. Corbin, Lena said, her voice calm and authoritative. And about the recordings you've been selling? Corbin's face twisted into a sneer. Ah, the Presley loyalists. Still living in the past, he cast me aside. You know, ruined my career. I was a genius, an innovator. He couldn't handle true art, true honesty. He gestured wildly at his recording equipment. These recordings, they're the real Elvis, not the pretty package. The broken, manipulative man beneath the world deserves to know. Lily stepped forward, ignoring Lena's subtle gesture to hold back. She saw not just a villain, but a broken man consumed by bitterness. Mr. Corbin, she began, her voice soft but firm. I've been studying Elvis's writings. He was not a broken, manipulative man. He was struggling. Yes, he was human. He carried immense burdens. But he was also profoundly kind, generous, and deeply spiritual. Those recordings you're selling, they don't tell the whole story. They're just fragments taken out of context, Corbin scoffed. You think you know him from some dusty old diary? I was there. I captured the truth. You captured a moment, Mr. Corbin, Lily countered, her passion rising. A vulnerable private moment that you're now exploiting for profit and revenge. Is that what you call truth? Using a man's pain to validate your own failures? Her words hit a nerve. Corbin flinched, his eyes narrowing, but there was a flicker of something in them. Shame, regret. The king threw me away like trash. Corbin spat, his voice trembling. I was ahead of my time. He couldn't appreciate my vision. He valued honesty, Mr. Corbin, Lily said gently. But he also valued trust. And you betrayed it. Imagine if someone took your most private thoughts, your deepest fears, and broadcast them to the world. Twisting them to make you look like a monster? The man who publicly shamed a legend long after he was gone. Corbin visibly wilted. What do you want? He whispered, his defiance draining away. We want the remaining recordings, Lena interjected, her voice firm. And we want you to make a public statement before Desmond Thorne's announcement. You need to admit these recordings were taken out of context, that they represent a private, vulnerable moment, not a definitive. Corbin hesitated, looking around his squalid home, then at the antique recording devices that were both his passion and his prison. I can't. Thorne, he'll ruin me. He's a powerful man, and if you don't, Lily said, stepping closer, then you will be remembered not for your artistic vision, though for Pran. You be remembered as a betrayer. Elvis's true legacy, his generosity, has terrain here, not your bitter revenge. Lily picked up a worn leather-bound notebook from Corbin's workbench. It was filled with his own intricate notes on sound engineering ideas for capturing the true human voice. She opened it to a page where he'd sketched a microphone, and beneath it a small, faded drawing of a musical note surrounded by a harp. It was a private dream, a moment of true artistry, unsung and forgotten. You cared about music, Lily said, her voice soft but powerful. About capturing the truth of sound. This isn't the truth, Mr. Corbin. This is an act of destruction. She showed him the drawing of the harp. This is your true heart, the artist in you. Don't let bitterness erase it. Miles Corbin looked at the drawing, then at Lily, then at Lena. He saw the conviction in Lily's eyes, the quiet strength in Lena's stance. He saw the path his bitterness had led him down. There are more tapes, he finally choked out, his voice barely audible. In the attic, a whole collection. And the second buyer, the contract is with a collector in London. They wanted it for their curiosity collection. He gestured vaguely upstairs. I'll tell them. It was all a lie. He looked utterly defeated, but also, Lily sensed, strangely relieved. He was letting go of the venom that had consumed him for so long. Suddenly, a loud crash came from downstairs. The front door burst open. Two burly men in dark suits stormed in, their faces grim. Corbin, you there? Lena reacted instantly. Thorne's enforcers. He must have sent them to secure the other tapes, or to silence Corbin before he could back out. She grabbed Corbin by the arm. "Lily, Attic, get those tapes. I'll hold them off." Lily didn't hesitate. She scrambled up the rickety stairs, her heart pounding, the weight of the King's True legacy heavy in her hands. Climax was upon them, and the fate of an unsung ballad hung in the balance. The attic was a dust-filled labyrinth of forgotten memories. Old furniture-stacked boxes, and the musty scent of aged paper filled the air. Lily pushed aside a yellowed sheet covering a worn armchair, her eyes scanning for anything that looked like recording tapes. Below, she could hear the muffled shouts and thuds of Lena engaging the enforcers. Lena was a formidable guardian, but Lily knew she couldn't hold them off forever. Then she saw them. A stack of wooden crates, carefully marked with dates, from the late 60s and early 70s. Inside, nestled among layers of foam, were dozens of reel-to-reel tapes, each meticulously labeled with cryptic codes and dates. These were the Part 2 recordings, the ones Corbin was about to sell to the London collector. These were the true threat. Lily pulled out her phone, snapping quick photos of the labels, sending them to Marcus. "Marcus, I found them. Dozens of tapes. Looks like private sessions. Got it, Lily?" Marcus's voice crackled through her earpiece, tinged with urgency. "Send me the manifest. I'll start cross-referencing against Corbin's digital files. Get them out of there." Lily began frantically grabbing the tapes, stuffing them into an old canvas bag she found hanging on a hook. They were heavier than she expected, a tangible weight of secrets and vulnerabilities. Her mind raced, remembering the passage from Elvis's journal about the silver compass pointing north from Hart, Nashville. The tapes, the betrayal, it all clicked. Corbin was the silver element, his bitter heart pointing north from Memphis to Nashville. And these tapes were the culmination of that poison compass. Suddenly, the attic door burst open. One of Thorne's enforcers, a hulking man with a grim face, appeared in the doorway. He spotted Lily and the tapes. Well, what do we have here?" he growled, advancing. "Little bird trying to fly off with our merchandise? Thorne wants those." Lily clutched the bag tighter. Her mind went back to Lena's training. Situational awareness. Using your environment, she glanced around. The attic was cluttered, but there was a window, small and grimy, but perhaps big enough to squeeze through. "They're not yours," Lily retorted, trying to buy time, her heart hammering against her ribs. "They're private property, stolen," the enforcer laughed, of guttural sound. "Doesn't matter what they are, they belong to Legacy Media now." He lunged. Lily ducked under his arm, scrambling over a stack of old magazines. She threw a dusty lampshade at him, momentarily disorienting him. She knew she couldn't fight him physically. She needed to get out. She ran for the window, kicking aside a pile of old blankets. The window latch was rusted shut. Panic flared. She slammed her shoulder into the frame. It shuddered, but didn't budge. The enforcer was closing in. Just as he reached for her, a blur of motion appeared behind him. Lena, appearing as if from nowhere, had somehow slipped past the other enforcer downstairs. She moved with practiced speed, delivering a swift, precise blow to the back of the first enforcer's neck. He grunted, stumbling, giving Lily the precious seconds she needed. "The window, Lily," Lena yelled, already engaging the stunned enforcer, her movements a graceful, powerful dance. Lily, fueled by adrenaline, pulled an old, heavy baseball bat from behind a box. She took a deep breath, channeled all her frustration and fear into a single swing, and shattered the windowpane glass rained down onto the overgrown bushes below. "Go!" Lena shouted, parrying another punch. Lily didn't look back. She clutched the bag of tape, squeezed through the jagged opening, and slid down onto the soft, overgrown ground below, landing with a jarring thump. She scrambled to her feet, cuts on her arms from the glass, but unharmed otherwise. She ran, not knowing where, just away from the house, away from the danger. She ran until her lungs burned the weight of the tapes, feeling like a sacred burden. Finally, she spotted their unmarked car parked a few blocks away, hidden from view. Lena was already there. leaning against the hood, a small cut above her eyebrow, but otherwise composed. "You made it," Lena said, a hint of relief in her voice. "Good work, Lily." "Are you okay?" Lily asked, panting. "Just a scratch," Lena replied. "The other one won't be bothering anyone for a while, Corbin." "He was shaken, but he said he'd cooperate," Lily said, holding up the bag of tapes. "I got them." Lena nodded, taking the bag. "Let's get these back to headquarters. Marcus needs to verify them. And then we need to execute our next move." As they drove back to Memphis, the sun was fully up, painting the sky with a warm, triumphant glow. They had secured the second batch of tapes, but Desmond Thorne's announcement was still hours away. They had prevented the second part of the Heartbreak Hotel heist. But the first, the public betrayal of Elvis's true character, was still looming. Now they had to use these tapes and Corbin's promised confession to counter Thorne's carefully constructed narrative of lies. The battle for Elvis's legacy was far from over. It was just entering its most critical phase. Back in the secure confines of the Guardians' headquarters, the atmosphere was a mix of intense relief and urgent preparation. Lily and Lena, weary but exhilarated, handed the recovered tapes to Arthur and Marcus. "Incredible work," the Maestro said, his eyes scanning the labels on the tapes. Miles Corbin was a true threat, a living repository of forgotten bitterness. Lily, your connection to the king's artistic soul and your words truly broke through to him. Marcus immediately began digitizing and analyzing the newly acquired tapes. Arthur, meanwhile, started cross-referencing Corbin's records with the Guardian's own extensive archives, seeking context for the snippets Thorne was planning to air. "Good news and bad news," Marcus announced an hour later, his fingers flying across his keyboard. "The good news. These tapes are even more damning for Corbin than the first. They contain not just therapy sessions, but his own biased commentary, clearly editing and splicing. Thorne's announcement is still on for 9 a.m. sharp," Marcus continued, pointing to a countdown clock on one of his screens. "And he's built up so much hype. It's going to be broadcast live on every major news outlet. He's claiming these recordings are irrefutable proof of Elvis's true manipulative nature." "We can't stop the broadcast," the Maestro said, pacing the room, "but we can counter it. We need to expose Corbin as a liar and Thorne as an exploiter simultaneously. We have Corbin's promise to confess," Lily reminded them. "If he does it publicly, before or during Thorne's broadcast, it would dismantle Thorne," Lena mused. "He's frail, and Thorne's people are surely watching him. We need a backup plan," the Maestro declared. "If Corbin falters, or if Thorne manages to suppress his confession, we need to release these tapes with our own clear analysis, proving his malicious editing." Arthur had been quietly working, cross-referencing information. "I've found it," he announced, holding up a file. "Context for the primary recording Thorne is using it from a period when Elvis was undergoing immense pressure from his manager, Colonel Parker, regarding grueling touring schedule and a forced movie contract. He deeply resented. He was extristing it entirely. Marcus, prepare a press release. Use Arthur's these new tapes, highlighting Corbin's malicious editing. Lena, you and Lily are our final line of defense. Get to the local news station that will be carrying Thorne's broadcast. Lee need to be ready to intercept with our counter-narrative the moment Thorne's story breaks." "Intercept?" Lily asked, her eyebrows raised. "We have an ally within the news network," the Maestro explained. "Someone who believes in journalistic integrity. If our counterattack is compelling enough, and if Thorne's broadcast is clearly a smear campaign, they will give us airtime. Immediately, but it has to be undeniable. The tension in the headquarters, King's true crown, his honorable legacy, was on the line." As the countdown clock ticked towards 0, Lily and Lena positioned themselves near a major news studio in downtown Memphis. Lily held a tablet containing the Guardian's meticulously prepared counter-narrative, ready to speak. At precisely 9 a.m., the massive screen in the studio lobby flickered to life, showing Desmond Thorne's smirking face. He sat in a lavish office, a confident smile on his lips. "Good morning, America," Thorne began, his voice oozing false sincerity. "For too long, the narrative of Elvis Presley has been carefully corroborated, sugar-coated. Today, legacy media, Halsing lifts the veil. We have of Coity beat." He pressed a button, and a distorted, out-of-context audio clip of Elvis's therapy session began to play. It sounded harsh, angry, and undeniably disturbing, just as Marcus had warned. Gasps went through the newsroom. Just as Thorne was about to launch into his full, damaging exposition, a notification popped up on Lily's tablet. It was Marcus. "Corbin is live," he managed to get to a local reporter. On a small side monitor, a grainy live feed appeared. Miles Corbin, looking frail but determined, was speaking into a microphone surrounded by a few local news crew. "I have something to say," Corbin stated, his voice shaky but resolute. "Desmond Thorne, he paid me for those tapes. He asked me to edit them to make Elvis sound like a monster. It's a lie. He was a good man, a troubled man, yes, but a kind one. I betrayed him. I betray my own integrity." A ripple went through the newsroom. Thorne's producers in New York were clearly caught off guard. "He's unraveling," Lena whispered, a triumphant grin on her face. Thorne, on the main screen, looked flustered. "This is a desperate attempt to discredit us," he blustered. "This man is clearly unstable." But the seed of doubt had been planted. The news anchors began whispering, looking at their own producers. "Now, Lily," Lena urged, "our turn." Lily stepped forward, her heart pounding, but a fierce resolve burning within her. She held up her tablet, its screen displaying clear, undeniable evidence of Corbin's malicious editing and Arthur's contextual analysis. "With all due respect, Mr. Thorne," Lily began, her voice clear and strong, resonating through the studio, "what you are doing is not journalism. It is defamation. You are twisting the words of a man who cannot defend himself, simply for profit. The recordings you are playing have been selectively edited, taken completely out of context." She paused, looking directly at the camera, thinking of the true Elvis she'd come to know. Elvis Presley was a man of profound generosity, deep spirituality, and immense kindness. He was human. Yes, with his struggles, but his heart was always in the right place to exploit his private pain for sensationalism. On the main screen, Desmond Thorne was visibly furious, shouting at his crew to cut away. But the damage was done. The news anchors were looking at Lily, intrigued. One of them, their guardian ally, gestured for her to come closer. The king's true crown, his character, his grace, his humanity, was being defended not by a lawsuit or a publicist, but by truth, spoken with passion in the heart of Memphis. The battle was won, and the unsung ballad of Elvis's gentle soul would continue to echo through time. The aftermath of Desmond Thorne's failed smear campaign was swift and satisfying. Miles Corbin's live confession, though rambling and tearful, had gone viral, reaching millions just as Thorne's broadcast began. It shattered Thorne's credibility before he could inflict serious damage. Coupled with Lily's direct accusation and the Guardian's carefully prepared evidence, Thorne's definitive narrative collapsed like a house of cards. His company's stock plummeted, and a wave of public backlash forced him into an embarrassing retreat. The serpent had been driven from the garden. Back at the headquarters, the mood was one of quiet triumph. The Guardians were exhausted, but their eyes shone with a deep satisfaction. "We did it," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair, a rare, genuine smile on his face. "Thorne's entire special has been pulled from reruns, and there are calls for investigations into his journalistic ethics." Arthur gently placed the recovered Miles Corbin tapes into a climate-controlled vault. "These will be secured," Perhaps one day, when enough time has passed and perspectives have shifted, a true, complete, and unbiased study can be made. But for now, they are safe. Lena, despite her earlier cuts and bruises, was already reviewing security protocols, her eyes sharp as ever. We've sent a clear message, but there will always be others chasing fame or fortune from the king's memory. Our work is never truly done. The maestro looked at Lily, his eyes warm with pride. Lily, you are instrumental. Your unique understanding of the king's artistic soul, your intuition about the silver compass, and your courage to speak truth to power. Lily felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Lily felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had found her purpose, her calling. She understood now that protecting Elvis's legacy wasn't about hero worship or clinging to the past. It was about preserving the best of humanity, kindness, generosity with Masidi, Riva with immense 50 manen. Now we continue. We monitor, we protected, we preserved, but serve. And we educate, partify-tu, prepri-ku kaya. On a small velvet-lined pedestal rested a simple, tarnished silver compass. It was old, beautifully crafted, and seemed to hum with a quiet energy. Kept it hidden, a symbol of his inner core. Lily reached out and touched the compass. It felt cool and solid beneath her fingers. This was the silver compass from his journal, the one that had led her on this incredible journey. It symbolized everything the Guardian stood for. His true north was always about kindness and connection, Lily realized, a lump forming in her throat. That's the legacy. That's the grace. Exactly, the maestro confirmed. The heart of the king beats on, not in gold, but in grace. It's not about the money, the fame, or the records. It's about the enduring spirit of a man who, despite his extraordinary life, we man profoundly. She continued her work with Arthur in the archives, unearthing more poignant insights from Elvis's private writings. She even began composing new music inspired by the profound humanity she had discovered. Her songs weren't about celebrity. They were about the quiet strength, the hidden struggles, and the enduring kindness of the king, blending his influences with her own modern sound. She found a deeper connection to Memphis itself, seeing the city not just as a place of music, but as a crucible of dreams, both fulfilled and tragically unfulfilled. The Guardians, her new family, gave her a sense of belonging she had always craved. They were a diverse group, united by a shared reverence for truth and a belief in the power of an authentic legacy. One evening, Lily stood in her small apartment, her guitar in her hands. She thought of Elvis, not the legend, but the man who wrote poems about humility, who secretly visited sick children, who wrestled with his own fame and tried to stay true to himself. She strummed a chord, a melody forming in her mind, a quiet tribute to an unsung ballad. The Graceland gates, famous and iconic, stood not just as a monument to a rock and roll star, but as a symbol of an enduring light, a light of generosity, humility, and authentic human spirit. And Lily, now a guardian, was part of the silent, dedicated few who would ensure that light would never fade. True legacy of Elvis Presley, the heart of the king, would beat on eternally in grace.